So in this lesson, we're going to review the order of operations. The learning target, I can review simplifying numeric expressions using the order of operations so that I can prepare for evaluating algebraic expressions. I will know I've got it when I've accurately simplified and shown all my steps for simplifying the 4 practice problems below. Okay, we're going to review what it means to simplify or evaluate a numerical expression. So if you're asked ever to simplify or evaluate numerical expressions, it means we want to decrease the number of terms in that numerical expression as far as we can by performing the order of operations. And we're going to work in neat rows while we do this. And we call that funneling the steps. And we've done this before, so this is a review of order of operations and how we show the work so the reader can see what you're doing as you work through the problem. So these examples have been done for you, and it's important that you walk through those steps to see what is happening in these problems to get them in its simplest form. And remember, the order of operations. Okay, so we're going to review the term simplify or evaluate numerical expressions. When we say we're going to simplify or evaluate numerical expressions, it means that we're going to decrease the number of terms in the numerical expression as far as you can go by performing those order of operations and working in neat rows, which we've called funneling steps in the past. So we're going to look at this first example, and we have our order of operations. I just put them here. You may want to write them on your note sheet here. Pause the video and write them down. And please note that I put GEMDAS, GEMDAS, but I didn't leave it at that. I also put under the MD, I put DM, and under the AS, I put SA. Because remember, when we're doing our order of operations and we have a term that has multiplication division in it, we are going to work those terms left to right to clean them up. The order can be multiplication division, or sometimes it's division first and multiplication. It's whatever is first in your expression, that's what you're going to do first. And then when we're ready to add and subtract, the last step, we don't always add first. We work the expression left to right. So sometimes it's not addition then subtraction. We switch it. Sometimes it's subtraction before addition. So we're going to see some examples that will put this to the test to help you see what we mean by that. So we're going to review these examples and walk through the order of operations so to recall how this worked. So first thing you'll notice is that the minus sign is highlighted in this numeric expression. It's numeric because it's all numbers in my expression, and I have terms. And our terms are separated by the pluses and minus signs. And some of our terms have operations within them. So we're going to have to break that down to help us understand this process. So we have the expression 3 times 2 squared minus 2 times the quantity 3 plus 1. And we highlight our pluses and minus signs to indicate where the terms are. And if we highlighted this minus sign, notice we did not highlight the plus sign in this grouping symbol because this is its own term and it's got operations within it. So when you have a plus or minus inside a grouping symbol, you will not highlight it. It's part of a bigger term. Okay, so I'm going to circle the terms here. Identify your terms so that you can see what you need to be simplifying. So there's one term, here's the minus sign, and then this term is separated by that minus sign. Okay, so we then can see what we have to clean up before we can subtract. So we're subtracting this amount minus whatever this amount is. So we need to figure out these amounts. So the first step here is to look at, this is 3 times 2 squared. And when you look at this, we're going to use our order of operations to clean up this term. It's got 2 operations within it. So the first thing we look for, are there parentheses in this term? And no, there are not. So we're done with the group. That's your grouping symbols. The next thing is exponents. You can see it's 2 squared. So they did the exponent, and they brought the 3 times down in front because we're going to do exponents before we do any kind of multiplication. Multiplication comes below the E. So we take care of 2 squared, which is 2 times 2, which is 4. We bring the 3 times down in front of it because we haven't done that yet. The minus sign comes down, and then we look at this next circled term. There's operations within this term. There's 2 times the quantity 3 plus 1. So we go back to our order of operations, and we say, hey, there's grouping symbols here. So we do that first. 3 plus 1 is 4. And they wrote that right here in that funneling step. The 2 times 4, the 2 comes down in front of it because we're just performing one operation in a term at a time. So the 2 came down. Now we've got 3 times 4 is 12, minus 2 times 4 is 8. And we could now have our terms, we're getting smaller and smaller. Remember, we're decreasing the number of terms in this expression by performing these operations in the right order. Now we're down to 2 terms that we know now what to subtract. 12 minus 8 is 4, and you're done. So we did the grouping symbols, we took care of the exponents. There was only multiplication, so we took care of that, didn't have to deal with any of that. And then there was subtraction, and so we took care of the subtraction right here, and we were done. Okay, here's our next expression. It's 11 squared plus 10 divided by 2 times 6. So again, it's important that we just identify where the pluses and minuses are because they help us to see the terms of the numeric expression. So the first term in our expression is 11 squared, and the second term in our expression has operations within it. So it's 10 divided by 2 times 6. Here's the plus sign, which separated both of those terms. And what we have to do is we have to add 2 numbers together here, but we don't know what they are yet because there's these operations we have to clean up so we can figure out what 2 values to add together. So we're going to go 11 squared, GEMDAS again. It could be useful just to pause the video and put this checklist here and make sure you box around the multiplication division set and the addition subtraction set. Let me circle up these terms again. So when we look at our order of operations and we look at this term, there are no grouping symbols, so we're good. But there are exponents, so we take care of the exponents first. And we do 11 times 11 is 121. Be careful not to do 11 times 2. That's not what this means. It means 11 times itself, and that's 121. So be careful there. So we have no grouping symbols. We took care of the exponents in this term, and we're good there. The plus sign comes down. Now we're ready to try to start simplifying this term. It's 2 operations. We've got division and multiplication, and we're right here in this green box. And for division and multiplication, division is first. So we selected this set. This is not going to apply because it's division, left to right, then multiplication. So we're working left to right. That's what you do at this step. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and I brought down the times 6 because I haven't done it yet. I'm just trying to do one operation at a time to keep things organized. So now I have 121 plus 5 times 6. So I've got my division done, but now I have this multiplication piece I've got to clean up. So I do the 5 times 6 is 30. My 121 plus sign comes down, and now I'm ready to do the addition. It's addition, so I'm just going to pick this right here. These are all taken care of. I add and I get 151, and that problem is done. So again, it's helpful just to have a checklist when you're working through these to make sure you're following the order and you're staying organized. So I'm looking at this right here, and there's a subtraction symbol and an addition symbol in this. So I highlighted those. That helps me to clearly see the terms in between. I've got a 12, I've got a 4 divided by 2 term, and I got a 6 times 5 term. So I don't know what to subtract from 12 because it's this math problem. I got to clean it up so I can say 12 minus a single number, not a division problem. So the 12 just comes down. It's already as simplified as short as we can make it before we do our subtraction. 4 divided by 2 is 2. That's one operation. So you don't need these order of operations there. It tells you, hey, divide it. And then there's only one operation here, so we're going to multiply. So we got 12 minus 4 divided by 2 is 2, plus 6 times 5 is 30. Now that we have these down to numbers, we know exactly what we're going to subtract and add together. So this is good. There were none of that. There were no exponents. We had division and multiplication, but the division was within itself, so we just took care of the division. Then we took care of the multiplication, so we did that, and now we're here at addition subtraction. When we look, we need to go left to right. So this says subtract first, add second. So we'll cross out that top one. We're doing this right here, left to right. So we get 12, take away 2 is 10, and we bring the plus 30 down, and we do 10 plus 30 is 40, and we have this in its simplest form. Remember, simplest form is to try to get rid of terms by performing those operations. Shorten up your expressions until you're done and you can't anymore. And there we have it. Okay, so hopefully by running through those examples, you are ready to try these problems. There are 4 problems, and we need to practice identifying those terms and then performing our 6th grade order of operations on these expressions. So I just put the checklist here, and I made sure to box in the multiplication division step with both options, just to keep myself reminding me that I have to go left to right sometimes, and the addition subtraction in a box. So I remind myself I have to sometimes go left to right because it's not already set up in that's how we work those. So make sure you have your checklist, and then what I want you to do is I want you to go through each of these 4 expressions, and I want you to highlight the plus and minus symbols that separate your terms so that you can see clearly what the terms are. What are the things you have to get the operations gone so that you can do that as subtraction or addition at the end. Turn the video back on to see if you highlighted the correct addition and subtraction symbols when you're done. All right, so in the first expression, you should have highlighted the minus sign between the 30 and the expression 2 times 8 divided by 4. So that separates, you have 2 terms in that numerical expression. You got this simple term 30, and you've got term with operation symbols within it. The second one, there are 2 addition symbols, but you're just going to highlight this one because this 5 squared divided by 3 plus 2 is its own term. It's operations within it. So you see a plus sign, but it's attached to this squaring and division, so it's its own term. And then the plus 8. So you got this mess here, and then a simple plus 8 to deal with. In the third example, you have 2 minus signs, but again, we do not highlight the ones that are inside the grouping symbols because it's part of the term 8 times 10 minus 9 squared. So we just highlight this to separate the 48 divided by 6 from the term 8 times 10 minus 9 squared. And then finally, the fourth expression, again, there is a minus and a plus, but that plus is in parentheses, so it's an operation within a term. We leave it alone, and we can see there's this math problem to clean up, and then the second that we got to clean up this math problem, and once they're both down to a number, we'll know exactly what to subtract. So I'm going to start by circling my 2 terms in this one. And that's what I need you to go do next. I want you to do what I just did. Circle your 2 terms here, and then go circle the terms in each of these 3 numerical expressions. And once you've got the terms circled, turn the video back on to make sure you've got them all correctly identified. Where are the terms in those expressions that you have to perform these order of operations on, so that when you get to done, you will simply need to add or subtract those final terms. All right, so we're looking at these. You should have circled 5 squared divided by 3 plus 2, because that's to the left of this plus sign, and then to the right is the 8. And then 48 divided by 6 in the third expression, and then the minus sign, and then you should have circled 8 times the quantity 10 minus 9 squared. And then finally, the last one, the term is 5 times 2 squared. That's its own term. And then the minus sign separates it from the second term, 4 times the quantity 3 plus 1. All right, so now that we got them identified, I want you to practice funneling using your checklist, order of operations here, and work this down to get to your final answer. I want to see the steps you use, 1 operation at a time for each term until you get your final answer. So I don't want you just to have the final answer right here underneath. You need to funnel your steps so I can see what order you're going in and follow your steps, just like we did in the examples above. It wasn't, oh, I'm going to get the answer and be done. It was funnel it down in neat rows so we can follow your steps. Turn the video back on when you're done with all of 4 and see how you did. All right, so the first problem, check your rows. You should have left 30 alone because you needed to clean up this term that has operations within it. And you should have done multiplication first. Using your checklist, there were no grouping symbols, there were no exponents, there was multiplication division, and we work left to right, so we should have selected this one first. We would have multiplied, and the division would have been the next step, which got us 4. And then finally, once we cleared the multiplication division, we just have subtraction left right here. So we do the subtraction, and we got 30 take away 4 is 26, and you're done. So if you didn't get that, you'll want to pause the video and fix that up. Okay, the next one, it was 5 squared divided by 3 plus 2. So we did the 5 squared exponents on this term, exponents, and then after exponents, I did do the addition subtraction in the denominator, which is down here. But it's like having it grouped. If you want to divide, you know what an answer you got up top here is 25, and you need to divide. What would you divide by, 3 or 2? Well, you don't. You don't divide by 3 or 2. You divide by the sum, what's in the bottom. So you have to recognize it. This is like it's grouped like this. It's 5 squared divided by the quantity 3 plus 2. So when we write those division problems as fractions, it's like they're in parentheses when we use this. If we were to translate it, you'd have to do that 3 plus 2 in parentheses, which says before you divide, you would do this grouping symbol 3 plus 2. So these long fraction bars with stuff above and below it say, hey, you got to clean up the numerator, clean up the denominator, and divide once you're done. So this is 25 divided by 5, which is 5, plus 8. We bring this plus 8 down. This is already simplified. Now we divide 25 by 5, and that gives us a single number 5. And 5 plus 8 is 13. So again, remember, using your order of operations is taking something that's got extra terms in it and writing it in its simplest form, evaluating it or writing it in its simplest form. Less terms, get it down to the fewest number of terms possible. So we went from 2 terms here down to 1. So it's now simplified. Okay, the third one, you should have had 48 divided by 6 is 8. And then you bring your 8 down and you do the grouping symbols. 10 minus 9 is 1. And the squared is waiting for it. So we have to subtract before we square or multiply. Looking at our order of operations, the first term was division, and we did it, and it's done. The second term has subtraction inside the grouping symbol, so we did it. Now this one's in simplest form, so we just bring it down, but we got to keep cleaning up the operations within this term. 1 squared is just simply 1. 1 times 1 is 1, so I just bring it down. The 8 comes down in front of it, and now it's 8 times 1 is 8. So I'm just, again, going through these order of operations. I did the grouping symbols, the subtraction, then I did the exponents, then I did the multiplication, and now I do the subtraction. And I get 8 minus 0 is 0. Or sorry, 8 minus 8 is 0. And you're done. So again, if you don't have that correct, fix it up and make sure you understand why that order is what it is, following GEMDAS. Okay, so here's my GEMDAS, and I have 5 times 2 squared. That's my first term I got to clean up. It's operations within a term. There's 2, exponents and multiplication. Well, exponents comes before the multiplication. So I did the exponents, and when I was done with the exponents, I had 5 times 4. I went over to this term to try to clean some stuff up here and shorten it up, and it's 4 times the quantity 3 plus 1. There are grouping symbols and multiplication here, so I did the grouping symbol and got 4. I brought my times 4 down. Now I've got this term to clean up. It's 5 times 4. 5 times 4, do your multiplication. Okay, and then this term I got to clean up. I can't subtract anything because I don't know what I'm subtracting yet. I'm subtracting this number minus this number. What are they? Well, we decided that was 20, and this is 16. Now I know what to subtract. It's 20 minus 16, which is 4. So it was multiplication cleanup, and what was left was just simply a subtraction problem. All right, so that's going to be key today because we are going to be evaluating algebraic expressions, and all these steps are going to be part of that. So it's building on what we already know with following order of operations. So this video is concluding the review, and now we're going to go learn about algebraic expressions.